You know that feeling when financial stress hits? For some people, that's the moment they turn to prayer for a miracle. In this explainer, we're going to dig into a source that breaks down exactly what a financial miracle prayer is, the whole mindset behind it, and the specific process it suggests. So let's dive right in.
The source material we're looking at opens with this scenario, and wow, is it relatable. It immediately grounds the whole topic, not in some abstract idea, but in that real, gut-wrenching anxiety of financial stress, a feeling I think a lot of us know all too well.
And that feeling leads us straight into our first section here, which really explores the deep emotional weight that comes with financial struggle, and it uses a personal story from the source to illustrate it.
So this story describes a situation where all the practical things you're supposed to do, budgeting, working more, they just weren't cutting it. The pressure was just constant, and it was replacing all the good stuff like laughter with worry. It's a really powerful picture of what it feels like to just hit a wall, to get to that point of complete exhaustion and desperation.
This is the turning point in the story. The prayer isn't complicated or formal, it's just raw and honest. It's basically an admission that you're at the end of your rope. And this is that moment where the focus shifts from trying to handle it all yourself to making an appeal for some kind of divine help.
Okay, so that brings up the big question. What exactly is a financial miracle prayer, according to this source? Well, it turns out it's a more specific idea than you might think.
Here's the definition it provides. And it has two really key parts. First, it's a request for your needs to be met. And second, it's a plea for peace while you're in the middle of all that uncertainty. So the focus is just as much on your internal emotional state as it is on your external circumstances.
The source draws a really sharp line here to make the intention clear. It's very explicit that this is not meant to be some kind of get-rich-quick scheme. Instead, the goal is framed around seeking help, finding wisdom, and trusting in a bigger plan. It's not about just chasing wealth for the sake of it. And to build on that, the source gives a whole list of specific prayers. We can actually group them into two pretty distinct categories based on the kind of need they're talking about.
So first up, there's a really strong focus on that internal psychological battle. You'll notice these prayers for things like contentment, calm, and strength. They're aimed at helping you manage the emotional toll that money problems really take on a person. And then you have this second category, and these prayers address very concrete, tangible outcomes. These are the ones asking for help with debt, or for finding a job, or for some kind of financial breakthrough. So you've got this combination of seeking inner peace right alongside asking for practical help. And here's what's really crucial. This approach doesn't just offer a list of things to say. It actually proposes a specific framework for how to approach the act of praying itself, breaking it all down into a clear process. This framework outlines a pretty clear path. Step one is about acknowledging a higher power, kind of setting a foundation of humility and gratitude. Step two involves some self-reflection, confessing any personal missteps, which is really about taking responsibility. And only then, in step three, do you actually spell out what you need. The whole thing finishes with step four, releasing control and trusting that there's a larger plan at work. It's like a structured journey from acknowledgement all the way to surrender. And this brings us to the final, and maybe the most central theme of the entire article. This whole concept of trust being the ultimate goal of the practice.
So let's go back to that critical question, one that the source itself asks and answers. After everything we've looked at, is this just some kind of spiritual shortcut to getting wealthy?
And the source's answer is a definite no. The practice is ultimately framed as an exercise in faith. The real goal is to develop trust that guidance and provision will come, no matter what specific form they end up taking.
To wrap all of this up, I'll leave you with this final thought from the source. It suggests that real security isn't something you find in a paycheck, but something that grows when your heart learns to trust with every single dollar and every single doubt. It's a complete reframing of security, moving it away from a dollar amount and toward a matter of faith. Definitely an interesting perspective to consider.